Hello and welcome to the Salty Scout Food and Travel Podcast. I'm Jane and I live, travel and cook aboard a 45-foot sailboat named Scout with my husband James. I'm looking forward to sharing the delicious food and drink experiences that make each sailing destination unique. Since setting sail from the US East Coast in 2022, I've been on a culinary adventure with a loose plan and a passion to explore and taste my way through the world's local cuisines. Whether you're an avid adventurer, fellow sailor, armchair traveller or food enthusiast, join me on this journey as I discover local foods, drinks, recipes, cooking techniques and restaurants as diverse as the places we visit. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Salty Scout, my food and travel podcast. I think I'm on episode 8 now. You're probably wondering where we are since the last time I released a podcast, and we are currently at anchor in the Tuamotus archipelago, which is in French Polynesia. So yes, we finally made it. Our last podcast was about provisioning for the Pacific Passage, and I remember releasing it halfway through, I think, what was ended up being a 24-day passage from the Galapagos to the Marquesas archipelago in French Polynesia. So yes, thank you Starlink for that. That was very helpful. Anyway, since then we cruised the very tropical and mountainous Marquesas, and we did that for about 5 weeks. And then just recently we took a 5-day offshore passage south to what is the low-lying Tuamotus group of islands, and we're currently sitting out in a bit of a blowdown here in this remote atoll called Amanu. Excuse the distant sound of wind gusts during this particular recording. So as a follow-on from the previous episode where we spoke about how to catch ocean fish, in today's episode, I'd like to talk about the types of pelagic or ocean fish you can catch while sailing between the islands, as well as the different types of tuna specifically. And then I'll talk about how to prepare and store a filleted tuna loin. And then I'll also summarize the types of meals you can make from a typical yellowfin tuna. There's some very tasty dishes out there. Finally, with some help from local Polynesians and fellow cruisers, I will then describe a typical French Polynesian tuna dish that anyone can cook, whether they're on land or sea. Before I dive into talking a bit more about the different types of tuna and the dishes that you can make from the tuna, I just want to provide a little geography lesson. So French Polynesia is in the South Pacific, and it's divided up into 5 main island groups or archipelagos, and it's spread over about 1,200 miles. I already spoke about the Marquesas, which is where we first made landfall from the Pacific, and where we are now, the Tuamotus, but there's also 3 others. They are the Society Islands, which you may have heard of. There's Bora Bora and Tahiti specifically, which is the capital of French Polynesia. But then there's also the Austral Islands, which are a little further south from, say, Tahiti, and the Gambia Islands, which are more to the east of Tahiti. Even an ocean-feeling day sail between those islands, say for example in the Marquesas, can bring the opportunity to cast out our fishing lines in the hope of catching something quite big and tasty for dinner. So far in French Polynesia for tuna, we have caught or known other fellow cruisers catch skipjack. They're the most common, but then less common but more highly prized is the yellowfin tuna, which is what we always hope to land on our deck. There's also the big eye and the bluefin tuna, but they are far too big for our particular line. So other cruisers have also been very successful in catching wahoo and mahi-mahi. We personally did manage to lure a marlin onto our line, but unsurprisingly, the line broke because it was just so big. I'm not sure what we would have done with a marlin-sized fish anyway. So what do you do when you've landed this really tasty-looking tuna on your transom, on the deck of your boat? So now I'm going to talk about, after it's been caught, how to kill a tuna and how to then bleed it. That's very important, as well as gilling and gutting and filleting, as well as processing and storing tuna loins. After it's been brought on board, there is this process to ensure that the continued quality of this extremely delicate flavours that the tuna exhibit are maintained. Before I continue, spoiler warning alert, if you are the least bit squeamish about how fish are killed, then I would recommend you just fast forward for the next minute or so. Okay, so the process of ikijimi is basically a spike to the brain is the most humane and quickest way to kill a fish. Basically, it stops any nerve activity or spasms to the body that increase the flow of lactic acid, which we want to avoid. And then any remaining nerve activity is then killed off by inserting a wire all the way down the spine of the tuna. So that's the process of ikijimi. The next step after that is to bleed the tuna to reduce the body temperature and to remove bacteria in the bloodstream. This bacteria may foul the tuna otherwise. And to do this, an incision is made underneath the pectoral fin, the gill arch and the lateral tail line cut across it, and then you let the blood drain from the tuna. The next stage is to gill and gut, and that involves cutting around the gill, and then you fill it by removing the bloodline and the pin bones, and then you skin the 4 separate loins that will end up being as a result of this, and then you have 2 top or back loin and 2 belly loins. Before you freeze them, it's a really good idea to dry the loins with paper towels before then vacuum packing them into bags. We then freeze the loins to kill off any parasites, but that's not totally necessary, but I just recommend that. Next, I'm going to bring on Anders from sailing vessel Tempest, who's going to talk about how they prepare the fish that they catch from their boat.
Well, first things first, proper handling is key to this fish. The moment you land that yellowfin, dispatch it humanely with a quick spike to the brain. This isn't just for respecting it, it also keeps the meat tender and fresh. After that, you can cut the main artery behind the pectoral fin and let it bleed out in the seawater. This is quite crucial for a clean, bright fillet. And after, make a shallow cut along the belly, remove the guts, and rinse it thoroughly. Now you're ready for the filleting part. You should find a stable surface and make sure you got a sharp fillet knife. That is really a key. Start by making a clean cut behind the pectoral fin, angling towards the head to get all that good meat out. Then, running your knife along the backbone from head to tail. Stay just above the spine. You'll hear that satisfying scrape as the blade glides along the bones. Next, you can work your way down the length of the fish, keeping the blade pressed against the rib cage. Flip it over and repeat the process. You should have 2 beautiful fillets now. Trim off any bloodline or silver skin, and you have your perfect cut. There you go. Fresh, gorgeous yellowfin fillets ready for poisson cru, sashimi, grilling, or that nice poke bowl. Remember though, respect the fish, use every part you can, and enjoy the bounty of the sea.
Thank you so much for that, Anders. It was really helpful to get a different insight. I really appreciate it. So now, what about the typical dishes that you can make from these tuna loins? I'll start first with the uncooked, the raw recipes. For yellowfin-sized tuna and larger, the quality is considered good enough for sushi and sashimi tuna. The lower belly, or the otoro loin cuts, tend to have a more complex taste profile with a fatty, rich, buttery flavour, whereas the back area, or the akami, has a more dense, clean and lean flavour. So what we like to do with our loins of tuna is the seared raw tuna recipe, which basically involves slightly frying or searing the outside of a prepared yellowfin loin after it's been rolled in some soy sauce and then a sesame herb crust, what is generally sesame seeds, garlic, thyme, salt, pepper and sugar. The sugar helps create this caramelized golden flavour. Now the key to this seared raw tuna is to have a very hot pan and a little oil, and to keep the cooking time to a minimum. 30 seconds on each of the 4 sides, let's say, of the loin is probably sufficient. You then thinly slice this seared loin where the sesame seeds are probably browned a little bit. You thinly slice the loin across the grain, and it's generally really tasty with your soy sauce, the wasabi and some pickled ginger. Okay, so the next dish I'd like to talk about is grilling the tuna, especially when you've got lots of skipjack. That's really good for sort of grilled steaks, and you cook them right through, and you flavour it with butter, lemon, garlic and onions, and maybe even add some salsa on the side. And also, actually, skipjack can be used in a fish stew or even in pasta dishes. I would generally limit my tuna intake to maybe 2 to 3 times a month due to its very low but known levels of mercury within the fish. When we first arrived in the Marquesas after our passage, we had a freezer full of yellowfin tuna and skipjack tuna. And one of the things I wanted to do was to find out whether there were any local dishes that I could use to make the most of all of this fish in my freezer. And of course there were, and one in particular is one I would like to talk about today. It's called poisson cru, which is basically marinated raw fish. So yes, it's uncooked, it's raw tuna. Before I talk a bit more about the actual recipe for poisson cru, I'd like to introduce Mahiti of the Le Nukuhiva Pearl restaurant, who I spoke to when I was there in the Marquesas. And she provides some local insight into how poisson cru is eaten. Thank you very much, Mahiti, for talking to me today. And one thing I want to talk about is the poisson cru, which is a dish that I've seen here in French Polynesia. Is it quite traditional?
Yes, it's traditional from all the French Polynesia.
Oh, right, so you can find it anywhere in French Polynesia.
Yes.
Yeah. I noticed here at the hotel that you had it for breakfast. Is it a breakfast item, or can you eat it any time of the day?
We eat all any time, but it's a starters. But we like to eat for the breakfast with just the fish. Okay. It's a raw fish with coconut meal, and we put some salt and some lettuce, cucumber, tomatoes, and carrots sometimes. Uh-huh. And if you like, you can put some lemon juice.
Does the lemon juice cook it? But
yes,
yeah,
it's
the acidity.
Little cook.
Yeah. So it's like I don't know if you're familiar with ceviche.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's look like this one, okay. But yeah. It's French Polynesia ceviche
with the coconut milk.
Yes.
Yeah. It's certainly I really like it. Is it a dish that many local people eat?
Yes. Usually we eat with traditional oven in the land. We have poke with fruit and fish, usually with taro.
It's like a root vegetable?
Yes.
Yeah.
And with sweet potatoes.
Right,
yes.
So you normally have it with that?
Yes. Normally the raw fish is not eating just the raw fish.
Okay.
You have to eat with many dishes. But for the little family, they take just the raw fish. Usually it's tuna, but in Marquesian we have another raw fish. Uh-huh. In French we say meru.
Meru.
And just that with salt, lemon juice, and garlic.
Oh, right, okay.
You have this fish and the raw fish.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mahiti, for talking to me about this very easy, delicious and very healthy local dish, of which in French Polynesian it's actually called ia ota, or poisson cru. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about how you make poisson cru. And you use any type of tuna, but preferably sushi grade yellowfin is what I recommend. So you take a nicely trimmed fillet of tuna and you dice it up into maybe about 1 centimeter squared cubes. Prepare the dish in a what's considered a non-reactive bowl, so a non-metal bowl such as glass or ceramic. Otherwise, the acidity from the lemons or the limes will react and create a metallic taste. The limes are used to basically cook the tuna with its acidity, just like the ceviche in Latin American countries or ahi in Hawaii. And you marinate the tuna with the lime for about 20 minutes before adding the other ingredients. And the other ingredients are some coconut milk to give it its creamy tropical flavor, and then various other raw ingredients such as onions, cucumbers, diced carrots, peppers, tomatoes, and some seasoning, salt and pepper. And this particular dish does not store well. I would emphasize that. You really should eat it within 24 hours of when it's prepared. One of the first times I made poisson cru, I did it as part of a potluck one afternoon with various other cruisers in a particular anchorage. I'd like to introduce Heidi from sailing vessel Tempest, and she was at the potluck that day, and I asked her what she thought of my poisson cru. I'm here with Heidi on sailing vessel Tempest, and she has a few things to say about the poisson cru, the raw tuna that I provided for the potluck. I'm here in the same anchorage. It's a beautiful Sunday morning. Anyway, over to you, Heidi.
Well, first of all, I have to try and tell you guys about the place that we're in now, because we're standing on a beach all by ourselves. We all just swam in. And this is a place where you catch the freshest fish, which Jane managed to present to all of us in the most tasty way. It's the local way that they make it here, actually. So I was quite impressed. I had a huge bowl. I think I had at least 2 servings. I don't know if anyone was just as lucky as me. Yeah, it was really tasty. And also around here you will find, if you walk around the woods, you will find some really tasty mangoes. So if you get hold of some mangoes that are not too soft, I think that would also add really nice texture and a bit of sweetness.
Yeah.
But I couldn't detect anything missing. This is just a dish that you can play around with and put all kinds of...
Yeah.
You can just use your imagination. You could put cilantro, I think, would also be
right,
quite nice in there.
Cilantro would be good. You know, yeah, because I think it's a very versatile dish.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah.
Maybe even a bit of fish sauce. I don't know. Maybe
Maybe make it more sort of little saltier.
Did you have ginger?
No, ginger. It's a good one.
Ginger also.
Yeah. So ginger, cilantro, mango. Yeah.
You can just vary it.
Yeah. But I think that the main component to it that's different from, say, ceviche is the coconut milk.
Yes,
so to make it more sort of, more.
That's the French Polynesian touch to it.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. All right. Well, great. Thank you so much, Heidi. And I love spending time like this with you. It's just so precious, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
And keep making it. I hope I get to taste it the next time too.
All right. Yeah. It'll evolve. Okay. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Heidi, for that. Yes, it was certainly a very beautiful location in which to hang out with everybody and eat some great food. Thanks once again to Anders, Mahiti and Heidi for making this episode happen, making it work. I hope this episode about French Polynesian tuna and the poisson cru recipe in particular has encouraged you to go out and buy your own fillet of tuna and do your own version of the poisson cru recipe. It's been great having you on board Scout today, and I look forward to knowing that you'll be joining me for future episodes. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.